You took away my ability to parent my child, even before I had any knowledge. I didn't even get to show support. You asked for support, I didn't get a chance. Your job was to educate my child in math, science, English, etc. Do your job and let me do mine.
Starting at 6th grade, they're 11 years old, they're already vulnerable. You wouldn't expect a teacher to be predatorial towards a child that they're supposed, the teacher, they're supposed to be trusted, and they stepped out of their line. In 7th grade, you find out, that there's secrets, there's lies. Their tactics are disgusting.
I've been seeing some chatter on TikTok lately in various videos about the topic of trans kids and teens being out at school but not out at home. And the teachers know the chosen names and pronouns, but they are conflicted as to how they should address the trans students if they see them out in public with their parents. The popular consensus is just don't mention any names at all. No gendered language whatsoever. And I understand the whole idea of trans lives are more important than cis feelings.
And they invited kids, including Jessica's daughter, to be in this club. And then they told these kids, do not tell your parents, and specifically Jessica's mom, do not tell them, they cannot be trusted, what's going on here. They gave them reading materials about transgenderism. They secretly changed the pronouns, but went in front of the parents, referred to their children by their birth pronouns, behind the parents' back in the school, used their new identity. And all of this was done secretly, and then suddenly they called Jessica in and informed her that going forward, her daughter was to be referred to by male pronouns, by a different name. They changed it in the school records officially. It was presented to the mom as a fait accompli.
Gender ideology is a complex topic, but it strikes at the heart of what it means to be human. It amounts to denying the biological reality that human beings are sexually dimorphic. It seeks instead to replace this idea of sex with an entirely subjective notion of gender identity, a very recent term and concept. And gender identity is unmoored from our sexed bodies.
Aside from its rank misogyny, the most important thing all you need to understand about transgender ideology, this neo-Gnostic transgender ideology, is that none of it is based in material reality. There's none of it that's rooted in objective truth, and thus, there are many, many victims. In short, we are destroying an entire generation of young people, and we are wrecking our society in service to utterly insane ideas. Ideas that prioritize the self-will and physically impossible goals of a few personality disordered individuals under a ferocious delusion.
Gender ideology, unfortunately, has been working its way into America's public schools for years. It appears in both the official curriculum and extracurricular activities. It also works its ways into classrooms through unofficial teacher training programs, which turn teachers into gender evangelists. As a result, schools have started to enable and even coax gender-confused students to so-called socially transition without their parents' knowledge or consent. This can put kids on the fast track to more drastic interventions, puberty-blocking drugs, cross-sex hormones. Even sterilizing surgical intervention that can result in what Abigail Shrier calls irreversible damage in her book by the same name. Now, there are two main victims of gender ideology. First, of course, are the children that fall prey to it through social media and schools. But the second related victims are the parents themselves.
We have never invested as much in public education as we should have because we've always had kind of a private notion of children. So part of it is we have to break through our kind of private idea that kids belong to their parents or kids belong to their families and recognize that kids belong to whole communities.
Then I come to find out that my school actually has an open policy that they adopted in 2017 called, and I'm sure most of you know about this in schools, it's a transgender and gender expansive non-discrimination policy. So what's very frightening about this is that under the banner of non-discrimination, they are assisting students to transition genders. They do it without parental consent. And in the policy, they're very clear that parents are not included in this if the student and the school together decide that it's not safe to include the parents. But there's no definition of what would make it unsafe for a parent to be included. But I have a funny feeling that a parent would not be included if they disagree with the political ideology that is gender ideology.
This morning, we are looking at the crisis in the classroom across the country. This one involves a school district in Wisconsin that's withholding key information from parents if their child decides to change their gender identity at school. Parents are not entitled to know their kids' identities. That knowledge must be earned. Should they be notified if their child is going by a different gender while they're at school?
Of course they should be notified. We are seeing across the country schools that have plans and policies in place to deliberately deceive parents, particularly on the issue of gender identity. So what that means is that they may be changing school records, the child's name, the child's gender, the child's pronouns. The child will be using different bathrooms, restrooms, potentially sleeping on overnight field trips based on the gender with which they identify that day, and parents are totally kept in the dark.
I noticed that you were using a different name than my child's given name at birth and the pronouns that we gave them, and I'm respectfully asking that you use the name and the pronouns that we gave them. I just say, like, it sounds like that really works for you at home, and you can absolutely choose to do whatever you'd like at home. Just so you know, like, this is an affirming class. Like, one of the ways I affirm students is I call them by the names that they asked to be called by. And
I don't know if we were even respectful about it. We were just like, no, that's sorry. Like, our district-wide rule is that the student determines that, not you, even though you are the parent.
After many weeks of going back and forth with the district, we learned the middle school had created a transgender, gender nonconforming support plan with our 13-year-old daughter without our knowledge or consent. The plan was a 6-page document completed with my daughter behind closed doors with 3 school officials that included the guidance counselor, the assistant principal, and a social worker I had never met. During the meeting, they asked her questions that could have significantly impacted her safety and her physical and emotional well-being, such as which restroom she preferred to use and which sex she preferred to room with on overnight field trips. The plan also directed school staff to use my daughter's birth name when speaking to us, her parents, and to use a different name in school with teachers, staff, and students. I have always told my children my #1 job is to keep them safe. And this school took that away from me.
Parents tell us that their children came home from camp. They were asking a lot of questions about gender and pronouns. The parents then reached out to the camp director, who told them that counselors, biological males who identify as they, them, are permitted to spend the night in cabins with the young girls.
No parent should feel the way I feel after knowing what could have happened to my daughter.
Upset by the sleeping arrangements at a school-organized science camp.
I contacted the school and I asked them if they were able to confirm that there was not a man actually sleeping in the same cabin as the girls. They were not able to confirm that.
They're asleep, they use the shower, they go to the restroom.
Camp Pali confirms, per California state law, we place staff in cabins they identify with.
These are grooming tactics that are well known that child predators do. What are schools doing now? They're introducing sex topics to children at younger and younger ages. They're telling children, oh, you probably shouldn't tell your parents about this because they might not like this. We've got a transition closet here at school, so you can wear the clothes that make your parents happy to come to school, and then you can change and wear what you want to wear here at school, and we won't tell your parents. These are grooming tactics.
The goal of the transition closet is for our students to be able to wear the clothes that their parents approve of, come to school, and then swap out into the clothes that fit who they truly are.
We will be sending out binders to Tommy. Monthly, we get 150 binders from GC2B, and we're going to be prioritizing a portion of that stock to go to students at Fremont High School.
So earlier tonight, the school board approved a grant application from Rockbridge High School's Gay Straight Alliance Club. GSA will apply for $10,000 from the It Gets Better project for a clothing closet to allow students to express themselves at school.
I never tell parents, period. On their survey at the beginning of the year, when it asked for preferred name and pronouns, it also asked for what you want me to refer to you as when I call home and what pronouns to use. Even if someone told me I couldn't do that and I couldn't call them whatever they want or the pronouns they want without parent permission, I would still do it.
Tonight, parents are suing Clay County District Schools after they say their daughter attempted suicide 2 days in a row, following meetings with a counselor about gender identity confusion. The parents say school administrators never told them about those meetings and allege the district violated their parental rights.
Our 12-year-old daughter, this is an elementary school, okay, had tried to commit suicide at school by hanging herself.
Wendell and Maria Perez still emotional, talking about the day school administrators told them their daughter attempted suicide twice.
The school counselor alleged that it was because of a gender identity issue and that they knew we as parents would not be in agreement.
Yaylee, she was the girly girl in the house. She used to dress up as a princess. She loved to dance, sing, and she was very artistic. When she was 13, I noticed that she was sort of depressed because she's starting to cut in herself. DCFS was involved. Because I didn't support all the changes that she was telling everybody, that she was transgender and she was in the process of it. And what they did is the school psychology wrote a note saying that my daughter was better off out of my home because we were not supportive towards the change. She was 16 years old when she moved out. I didn't have any support from school. I didn't have any support from anyone. I was the bad guy. She was taking the hormones. She was not happy. She changed her name, was not happy. The issue is here. 8:15, I received a phone call from the coroner's office. I parked my car, tell me where's my daughter, I want to go see her. And she said, I'm so sorry, but you're not going to be able to see your daughter. They said, why? What hospital is she in? I just want to see her. Man, last night, she took her life. Oh wait, I was screaming, I said, no, I want my daughter. They took my child. My daughter was a number. It's all political. is in their agenda.
Last month, the California Teachers Association had a conference in which they instructed educators on, one, using stratagems for recruiting students, middle school students, these are 11, 12, and 13-year-olds, to their LGBTQ clubs, using electronic surveillance to see who might be susceptible to these invitations, and then targeting them with personal invitations from faculty members, and then how to deceive parents about their membership, the existence of the club, and whether the children were a part of it.
That is why we use which for unrestricted sentences, okay? Alright, end of class. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Yo, what's up? No, come here. Alright, what's on your mind? Oh, no way. Alright, is there a different way you would like for me to refer to you as? No, I love that. That is so great. I think that name fits you really well. I will definitely write that down so I don't forget. Oh, no, that's totally fine. Alright. What we can do in that situation is during parent-teacher conferences, I will refer to you as your legal name, but here in the classroom, I want to make sure you always feel comfortable, included, and safe, you know, all those good things. So I'll definitely be referring to you. Is that okay?
I'm a 7th grade English teacher at Rosemont Middle School in La Crescenta, California, which is part of the Glendale Unified School District. Thank you all for being here. I helped start my school's GSA in 2015, and I want to help you possibly do the same thing.
GSA clubs were formerly known as gay straight alliances, but now they're known as gender sexuality allies. They are supposedly support groups for LGB and TQ kids. GSA clubs now are almost entirely devoted to the TQ. They are boots on the ground for indoctrinating kids into this ideology. They are started supposedly by kids, but actually by adults.
What we want to do is get the club up and running. The second thing is we'll go back and see if we can revisit the permission slip issue.
Lunchtime is kind of that sweet spot where the kids don't need to come earlier or stay late, and kind of eliminates a little bit of that parent interaction to, you know, protect the kids' identities and protect and allow them to attend.
Tonight, tense moments at a Beaverton school board meeting between parents and district leaders.
The topic, a club focused on genders and sexualities that parents say they weren't told about. Jenny Young reports.
A group of Beaverton parents expressing a lot of frustration. Parents said they weren't notified about the club before their kids were asked to join.
She did because everybody was doing it and she thought that that's what she should do.
My name is Magistra Y. I'm non-binary. I wanted to have a few visual cues in my classroom to show students that it is a welcoming and inclusive place. So one of the things I did was I put a pride flag on my desk.
My room does not have a flag. It used to be there, but I took it down during COVID because it made me uncomfortable. In the meantime, I tell this kid, we do have a flag in the class that you can pledge your allegiance to. And he like looks around, he goes, oh, that one?
And y'all thought me teaching the children about me being poly was crazy. But not only that, but they also know that I'm gender fluid.
GSA clubs are where kids are getting indoctrinated. Kids are invited into these clubs. They are taught all of the dogma about trans, all of the vocabulary, all of the behaviors, everything you need to know to be a good trans kid or trans ally.
I think gender identity is not what you're born with, but what you are, like who you choose to be.
The Genders and Sexualities Alliance Club, or GSA, was started earlier this month when two fifth graders who identify as transgender talked to a school counselor about forming the club. The students created a slideshow and pitched it to fourth and fifth graders. The district says 40 kids signed up.
Peer-to-peer sales is what is used to leverage social connections. It's using peer pressure to sell things.
You're happy, you're here, you have your tea, you're relaxing. Well, excellent. Well, I am so happy to be here as well. I love my parties, I love my business. My name is Joan, and I've been in Tupperware, just started 22.
When I first heard the term peer-led sex ed, I kept thinking, like, this is reminding me of something. What is this reminding me of? And finally I realized it's peer-to-peer sales. Peer-led sex ed is what is happening in schools where older kids are brought in to teach sex and gender to younger kids.
I don't feel comfortable as a woman, but I don't feel 100% comfortable as a man. I feel like I'm still figuring out, you know, I know that I don't know. I don't know how to explain it.
My body was a prison, and I felt like there was no way out. But eventually, things began to change. I began to change.
I think we should be working just as hard to mentally accept ourselves for exactly who we are.
As you may know, HRT has been historically rather inaccessible to the trans and non-binary community because the medical system is pretty transphobic.
Hello! Hello. If you're interested in trying gender-affirming hormone therapy, look no further. Try Plume.
And that's why I really want to talk about Plume. So Plume is this service that is made by trans people for trans people.
I scheduled my appointment, and day of my consultation with my doctor, I got a prescription for testosterone.
And this is why we're seeing so much social contagion. This is why we're seeing so many kids all suddenly announcing trans identities. It's because it is being created in the schools, and the GSA clubs are the heart of it.
First of all, our leaders were unreliable. Remember, we had poached them from the counseling office, right? They were not the most emotionally stable students on campus. Actually, they were the least emotionally stable students on campus. Right? We were really excited when they just showed up. You will find you need to counsel students. Like in my example with a girl who sat in my classroom crying, right? That was not an isolated incident. I have a fundamentally different relationship to my students now that I run a GSA than I did 5 years ago, right? Some of them call me mom, right? That's just how it is.
People are calling me the internet mom more and more lately, and I like it.
A word to the kids.
There once was a girl at the age of 3, told her mum, this is how I want to be.
I want you to know that it's okay to walk away from unsupportive parents.
Soon may transition come to bring me blockers and hormones, mum.
And I want to give you hope that you can find what we call your glitter family, your queer family.
At last I am the real me, and now I am happy.
Hey, if your parents don't love and accept you for who you are this Christmas, fuck them. I'm your parents now.
I want to talk to the kids. Hi there. I get asked a lot, are you a boy or a girl? And I love that question.
The hips on the drag queen go swish, 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 swish.
And so I wanted to just tell you, sometimes human beings are more than boy or girl. Sometimes we're something else. Sometimes we're both. Sometimes we kind of float in between, and sometimes we're a boy, sometimes we're a girl. Because human beings are creatures.
How come my penis gets big sometimes and points up in the air? That's called an erection. Sometimes I touch my penis because it feels good.
Sometimes when I'm in my bath or when Mom puts me to bed,
I like to touch my vulva too.
You have a clitoris there, Kayla, that probably feels good to touch the same way Keith's penis feels good when he touches it.
Get down with yourself, explore your own body. Masturbation is really healthy, and I recommend it to people of all ages. All ages.
Here's the way we change the frame. So sexuality exists within the child. It's not in a box. Have you ever heard anybody say that children are sexual beings from the moment of birth on?
Question I'm often asked, or people around the dinner table will say to me, you know, kids are too young for a gender identity and sexual orientation, aren't they? Sexual behavior is the first thing to develop for youth. We're considering sort of self-pleasuring masturbation as part of sexual behavior here. We know that in utero we see children playing with their genitals because it feels good, it's exciting.
So I would say the most surprising piece was how much evidence there is for sex education in elementary school. Sex education is most important, it can be strongest when it starts in elementary school, but that the early grades may in fact be the best time to introduce topics related to sexual orientation, gender identity and expression, gender equality, and social justice related to the LGBTQ+ community before heteronormative and cisnormative values and assumptions become more deeply ingrained and less mutable.
They're ready to learn about it, whether you think they are or not. And the research says that there is no age too young to talk about pretty much anything.
This stuff actually is less complicated for kids than it is for adults. I can say to kids, there's boys, there's girls, and there's the rest of us. And kids are totally fine with that. If you get anyone from like 13, 14 up to 40, 50, 60 years old, they'll be like, you know, record scratch. Like,
because
what?
you have to break through sort of prior learnings.
If we get kids early, then we don't need to re-educate them. That I'm thinking about kids. And I know what kids can handle and what they can't.
What a lot of people are protesting, it seems like, is the age appropriateness.
Sure.
A stands for
asexual.
Teddy, you're getting really good at your LGBTs.
Hey, Lindsay. Hey, Teddy.
What are your pronouns and how do you identify?
I use she, her, and hers, and I identify as asexual, queer, and cisgender. You went over the kissing stuff already, right, Lindsay?
Sure did.
Okay, explaining what asexual means is pretty simple then. Being asexual is when adults love each other romantically, but they don't want to express those feelings through something like kissing or other ways of expressing love physically.
In the book Rick by Alex Gino, a boy named Jeff keeps talking to Rick about naked girls. Rick is confused because he doesn't think about naked girls, so he wonders if something's wrong with him. Rick gets invited to the school's Rainbow Club, and he ends up declaring an asexual identity. While reading this book, I was thinking, maybe Rick doesn't have sexual feelings yet because he is a child. It concerns me that this book leaves young boys wondering if there is something wrong with them if they aren't thinking about naked girls all the time. Well, so what message does this book send to young girls who might be in grade 3, 4? They are children. Let them grow up in their own time and stop pressuring them to be sexual so soon.
This is also in the book, Genderqueer at Northwest High School, available for children as young as 14 years old.
Both of these books include pedophilia, sex between men and boys.
One book describes a 4th grade boy performing oral sex on an adult
Kindly
male.
refrain from further
The other book
reading
has
here, please. Thank you.
detailed illustrations of a man having sex with a boy.
Your comments are in violation of that, so I'm ending the presentation.
No, you're not.
Point of order.
Fellatio,
Point of order.
sex toys,
What if I told you I touched another guy's dick?
masturbation,
What if I told you I sucked it?
and violent nudity.
I was 10 years old.
I'm going to give you a
But it's
blowjob of your
true.
life.
I put Greg Goebel's
Then
dick in
I
my
want
mouth.
you inside me.
Sorry, you're out of order. This is your first
warning.
Equity and inclusion. I was in 4th grade.
Also include incestuous
Have
relationships,
your cock in my mouth.
child adult
It was no
sex,
big deal. He sucked mine too.
and books that promote pedophilia.
Material. There are children in the audience. Do not interrupt my time. Do not interrupt my time.
I would like to remind everybody.
I will stand here until my time is restored and my time is finished.
A 4-year-old in my class today was naming all the girls in class, and then she said my name. And I just tell her, I'm not a girl, don't include me. And then another 4-year-old whipped around, like, mixed kid is a people. And another 4-year-old at a different table looks at her and goes, they're a they. Made my non-binary teacher heart very happy today.
Hi, I'm Nadine, a sex educator.
And I'm Eva, a sex researcher.
I use the pronouns she and her because I'm a woman, and when I was your age, I used to be a girl.
When we were born, it's likely a doctor or nurse looked at our body and gave us a label based on what they could see. Male or female. This is often called a person's assigned sex.
What a baby's body looks like when they are born can be a clue to what the baby's gender will be, but not always.
So when babies are born, the doctor looks at them and they make a guess about whether the baby is a boy or a girl, based on what they look like.
And so when they grow up and they can tell people that the doctors made a mistake about their gender, then they can transition to be the gender that they actually are.
Transgender industry has been actively grooming kids, starting now as young as preschool.
Doesn't it just fill you with pride, showing who you are on the inside? Wave that pride flag up high, be true to you.
I'm seeing so many children's books that are just targeting kids, trying to convince them that they are the ones who choose what sex they are.
Aiden didn't feel like any kind of girl. He was really another kind of boy.
So something that's really cool and unique about who I am is that I am transgender. So we touched a little bit about that at the beginning of this week in the book that Miss Hammond read.
This is Alex's friend JJ. Ever since JJ was very little, they never felt exactly like a boy or a girl. They felt like themselves. This is JJ's gender identity.
Everyone has a gender identity, including you.
I start conversations about gender and sexuality with my students.
I teach my elementary school students about gender identity. I teach my students that there's a whole spectrum of gender identities.
The most controversial way I teach my kids consent is that they all choose their own gender identity because it's every person's right to be who they are. It's that simple.
Everyone born with a vulva is a girl. True or false?
Or identifies as a girl. Not everybody is sure, and that makes sense. But our genitals actually don't determine our gender. So some people born with vulvas can be boys.
That it doesn't matter what their body is or their biology is or their genetics are, that it's all about feelings.
Identify, 'cause it's hard to tell just with my eyes. So tell me what you feel inside so you can be the best.
It's okay to be
what you want to be?
I was born as a girl, and then on the inside, I feel in the middle.
Think about your own issues. Think about what it brings up for you. Think about what you want for your children in the classroom.
But remember that gender is not binary, right?
There's a spectrum.
Because gender exists on a spectrum. Like transgender, which means a person whose gender identity is not consistent with their assigned birth sex.
There's a lot that's problematic about teaching kids that gender identity is on a spectrum. And if you don't feel like you're perfectly a Barbie doll or perfectly a G.I. Joe, then they'll say you're somewhere on that spectrum. But that is not true. They're conflating sex and gender. Sex is binary. It's based upon chromosomes. It's fixed at the moment of conception. It doesn't change. Personality is on a spectrum.
So today, one of my students asked me a really funny question. He was like, "Teacher Ramirez, are you a boy or a girl? 'Cause I'm confused." And I was dying. When I tell you dying, and I just looked at him and I was like, I'm confused too.
People can also be fluid, feel more like female, more like male, based on a different day or time. It's really individual.
Absolutely. He goes, "Teacher Rebecca, are you ever going to decide if you want to be a girl or a boy?" And so I say, well, it's not really a decision like that, and you don't have to choose between one or the other. I already figured out that I'm neither. Do I seem like a girl to you? Do I act like a girl?
Again, this is to me just a horrifying ideology. I don't see anything good about it. It's undermining all of our efforts to get rid of regressive sex-based stereotypes instead of embracing them.
3, 4, 5, 6. I like doing things that boys like doing, like climbing trees and making paper airplanes.
I like to wear sneakers, jeans, and I don't like dolls. I hate the color pink.
It says here that she is too weak to stand up for herself.
If I give you a marker, I want you to look at that color of marker and think to yourself, is this a boy color?
Yes.
Or is this a girl color? Or could this be both?
So I'm a non-binary preschool teacher, and today one of the kids goes, "Hey, we've got 2 boy teachers in the classroom because the other teacher in the classroom at the time was a guy." And I go, "No, there's not. I'm not a girl or a boy, remember?" And she goes, "Oh my God, wait, does that mean you're dead?"
Hi, it's International Pronouns Day. I'm a non-binary elementary school teacher, so here's how I talk to my students about pronouns and such.
Like cookie mix or mixing bowl, that sort of thing.
One of my kiddos came up to me and he goes, "Are you mixed up? Are you mixed up?" I was like, "No, sweetie, I'm not mixed up. I just use mix instead of Mr. or Mrs." And he's like, "Okay, I was worried."
I'm their teacher, and I use they, them pronouns. That's it. They don't have an option to use any others because it wouldn't be correct. It would be wrong.
Something really special happened today, and I want to share it with y'all. I'm a non-binary art teacher, and I teach 4th through 8th grade. I had multiple students come out to me today. One student was basically like, "Teacher Roby, can I put the bisexual flag on my sketchbook?"
Tell him again.
Teacher Roby is not a shit. Teacher Roby is not a hit. Teacher Roby is non-binary.
Period. Blue's Clues recently promoted having top surgery. There was a pro-tolerance, pro-pride parade, and there was actually a character in the parade who had scars from having top surgery. This is actively promoting and normalizing this self-harming. This is telling children that it's not just normal, but it's something to be celebrated if you choose to damage your otherwise healthy body.
Ace, Bi, and Pan grown-ups you see can love each other so proudly. And they all go marching in the big parade. Wow! Thanks, Blue. Happy Pride Month.
Today, my student pulled me aside to ask me if I was trans.
I said yes, and almost immediately they said, so when I grow up, I can actually be a boy?
A California kindergarten teacher is facing outrage after discussing gender identity with her students. One child came to the teacher with books on the subject while going through a gender transition.
Rockland Academy teacher addressing a packed house of parents, many furious about her decision to discuss the topic of gender identity inside her kindergarten class. The teacher defended her actions to read 2 books she says were given to her by a transgender child going through a transition.
The kindergartners came home very confused about whether or not you can pick your gender, whether or not they really were a boy or a girl.
Parents say besides the books, the transgender student at some point during class also changed clothes and was revealed as her true gender. And many parents say they feel betrayed and blindsided.
My daughter went home crying, shaking, so afraid that she could turn into a boy.
I did. What you gonna do about it? Nothing. I did. Yo, muffins in the freezer, they be lit. Yo, 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 yo.
I got no ice on my wrist, you can check. Need to invest and redouble that check. Hot no paper, my life stayed on that stress.
A person who is transgender is someone whose internal sense of their gender, being a boy, girl, or something else, doesn't match their physical body. People who feel this way sometimes feel anxious when they begin to reach puberty and their body starts to change in ways that don't match their internal sense of their gender. These feelings are totally normal. If you feel you want more time to explore how you feel about your gender, you may be referred to an endocrinologist. Endocrinologists specialize in hormones, and they are the most likely to prescribe puberty blockers for someone who wants them.
It's a teacher that's kind of not a guy and not a girl, like somewhere in between.
Oh, so you're kind of boy and you're kind of girl?
Kinda, yeah.
Me too, that's me.
Okay, right on.
I want to be a boy, but I don't like being a girl.
You know what? You have choices in this world to be all sorts of different things.
Out to play ball so we could ruin them. Mama said that it was okay.
I mean, my kids seem to like it, so I'm probably going to keep doing it. But thanks for the comment. I really appreciate anyone reaching out. Look for Teaching the Children tomorrow. Feels very Harvey Milk meets Harvey Dent. I'm here to recruit you.
With a recent Gallup poll revealing more adults than ever before identifying as LGBTQ, how do you make sense of such encouraging data about the numbers not identifying as something other than heterosexual?
This should be a wake-up call to us. As we're seeing, just astronomical increases in children who are identifying as transgender, that should be an alarm bell. That should be something that we're looking into. Why are so many kids so unhappy with their core self that they feel like they need to kill themselves and recreate themselves as a new persona?
Transactive, who's a community partner, has done a lot of outreach, I think particularly in middle schools lately, to try to get more awareness out there so that we're capturing people more in that critical period. And we are seeing an increase of kind of 9 to 12-year-olds coming in recently. I don't have exact numbers, but...
We are manufacturing transgender kids. We are manufacturing their depression, their anxiety, and it's turned into a huge industry that people are profiting from after kids' lives are completely torn apart.
Why is there this explosion of this now? Because we're creating it. This is a manufactured epidemic. This is a social contagion. And why are we doing this? Because it's very profitable.
The most vulnerable people in our society. Why do we abuse them with hormone blockers and cut their bodies apart as a way to affect treatment. It's insane, actually. It doesn't make any sense. If we're just to pause and take a sober breath, it's insanity. I want to say it again. We're manufacturing transgender kids.